Hello everyone and welcome back to Classic Comics. So today I'm reviewing Generations Shattered #1 from DC. This is written by Dan Jurgens, Andy Schmidt, and Robert Venditti, with art by a lot of people. So we start here in the future after the great disaster with Kamandi. Now there's this wall of energy that looks like the antimatter wave that destroyed the multiverse back in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And some of the intelligent, sort of anthropoid animals that live in this time period, they're blaming Kamandi for everything. And they want to kill him. And here's a nice shot, nice 2-page shot. And then, but Booster Gold arrives. This is an elderly version of Booster Gold. And he's wearing this gauntlet, and it turns out the gauntlet is actually Skeets, which if you know the Booster Gold character, he's got this little AI kind of drone that follows him around called Skeets. But apparently somehow it's been repurposed into this gauntlet. Now the energy field, or the chronal storm, as Skeets calls it, is approaching. So Booster, he gets hit with a crossbow. He gets shot here, so then he transfers Skeets from his arm over to Kamandi, and then they take off into the time stream, leaving Booster behind because he's dying. Then we get a shot of several of these characters in different time periods who are all sensing some sort of disruption in the time stream. And then Wave Rider, of course, who has time travel powers, he arrives just as Kamandi is disappearing, and he seems to be trying to save Booster Gold here, and I'm not clear if he tried to and failed or if he succeeded. It looks like he didn't. It looks like he tried to take Booster, but then the chronal wave got him, so I guess he's gone. And then we see this figure here. I don't know where this is supposed to be or what time period or anything, but we see this rock floating in space here, and there's this figure who's apparently behind everything, and he talks about how he's manipulating time streams, and he's been doing it for a long time. And then we get, then we get the Linear Men here, and they're at Vanishing Point, which is this, I don't know, kind of pocket dimension outside of the time stream, I guess. And the Linear Men, they sort of keep an eye on the time stream to make sure no one screws time up too much. And they see that someone is manipulating time. Entire time periods are being wiped out. So then they travel, again, to this rock that's floating in space here. And they confront the villain, whoever he is. And then he says that he's going to remake them and repurpose them to service him. Okay, now then we've got Kamandi and Skeets traveling through the time stream, and Skeets explains to Kamandi that, someone is manipulating time, the time stream is under assault, and Booster and Skeets were trying to assemble a group of heroes to stop it. Booster's gone, so now Kamandi's going to have to do it. And then their first stop here is in the 31st century, which is the period of the Legion, and of course the wave is there as well. Again, this is a lot like Crisis on Infinite Earths, where the wave that's wiping everything out is occurring throughout all space and time, through all time periods and all universes, etc., etc. And this seems to be the original Legion, like the Silver Age / Bronze Age version of the Legion, from Earth 1 before Crisis on Infinite Earths. And they grab Superboy and take him into the time stream. Then their next stop is in 1993. And this is Metropolis. This is post-Crisis and Flashpoint. So this is early 90s. And they pick up Steel, the 90s version of Steel. And again, the antimatter wave is there, and it starts wiping everything out. And, and this is what happens through the preceding pages. They basically go from one time period and Earth to another to pick up and gather this group of heroes. Then it's 1987, so this is going to be, again, post-crisis Earth. And they pick up the female, Asian version of Dr. Light. And then they go to Metropolis, and this is, they don't give the exact year, but they go to get Superman, but they wind up picking up Booster Gold instead, and this is right after Booster Gold has arrived in the past. So I'm guessing this is going to be around 1986, right after Crisis on Infinite Earths had happened. And again, the Chronal Storm appears. Then they go to 1983, and this is pre-Crisis. This would be pre-Crisis Earth 1. And they pick up Starfire, looking at the membership of the team here. So shortly before the Judas contract story arc took place. And then Kamandi travels to Rann, and again, I don't know the exact time period here, but it's at some point before Sinestro had become a villain, so he's still part of the Green Lantern Corps. And although they're on Rann, Kamandi arrives and they get Sinestro instead of Adam Strange. And then he picks up, the last one he picks up is the Golden Age Batman. And then he takes all these heroes to Vanishing Point, again, which is the Linear Men's headquarters, which is outside the time stream, so I guess, they're safe from the chronal wave there. But now Skeets has stopped functioning, and Kamandi doesn't know what to tell them. So they kind of start squabbling, but Dr. Light and Steel kind of figure out what's going on, or at least kind of the general idea of it, that time is under assault. And, they need to stop it and figure out who's behind it. But then this group of others appears. And these are, it's mostly villains, although Omac's not a villain, he's a hero. But these characters appear. Apparently they've been gathered by the villain to stop them. And we've got, the Ultra Humanite, Artemis, who is the Amazon who became Wonder Woman for a while in the 90s. Omac, this being the original the original Jack Kirby version of Omac. The Eradicator, Major Force, who is, evil Captain Atom, basically. Knockout, who was a foe of Superboy back in the 90s. And Nemesis Kid, who was a member of the Legion of Super Villains. And kind of a brawl ensues. And this is where the story, I don't know, it kind of gets confused. Because as as the various heroes and villains sort of pair off and start fighting, they seem to move off into other universes or time periods or something. I'm not even sure. The storytelling is kind of muddled here. But that seems to be what happens. And I guess time is kind of fracturing or something, and then the villain appears, who, of course, and this is Dominus. And Dominus is a villain that Superman fought repeatedly back in the 90s. If I remember, his story was he was like this alien who was killed but then reborn as this kind of psychic or psionic entity, and he has reality manipulating powers, so he's a good choice for a story like this. I'm glad they used him. He's a character that hadn't really been used much in recent years. Anyway, he appears, and then he does kind of his villain monologue and sort of explains that he's going to create the perfect reality or some such. And he's all powerful. The heroes can't stop him, etc., etc. And then, I don't know, he kind of banishes them off to different time periods. The Golden Age Batman winds up somewhere in the future. And that's all I'll show. I don't want to show the very end. But that's pretty much it. So this story has a crisis on something feel to it. A group of heroes are gathered to deal with an enemy who threatens all of time and space. There's a big energy wave of some kind that's destroying the universe or the multiverse. One of the main reasons I bought it was because I was intrigued by the group of characters that were going to feature in it. I like when DC does stories that push some of their lower tier characters to the forefront instead of just relying on, Superman, Batman all the time. Characters like Booster, Commandy, Dr. Light, etc. And yes, it does have a Batman in it and a Superboy, but these are defunct versions of the characters that don't really appear in their books anymore, except for kind of cross-time stories like this one. Now, since this is being published in the same months as Future State, I figured there was some connection between the two events, but I wasn't sure what the relationship the story has to the whole Future State event that DC is doing. So I tried to read up on it and get a better idea of what impact this is going to have on continuity. And I found an article that told me the following. So it says, Generations is, as they call it, the charge towards DC's future, whatever that means, and will spotlight DC's superhero heritage while revealing secrets that will shape its future. Okay. Planned as a series of 5 monthly specials, the publisher announced Generations was intended to retcon DC continuity into one streamlined timeline and add new elements to DC's mythology. So in other words, it is a Crisis on Infinite Earths type of event, since that's what the original was for. The Generation series of specials are built to bring the new DC timeline to life. DC's co-publisher Dan Didio, whatever you say his name, said in mid-February, quote, "We'll be shining a spotlight on the 80-plus year publishing history of the DC Universe, while charting the course for the bright future of DC's characters. All of our greatest stories and events will create the backdrop and context for the new adventures we have planned. Everything counts, and we guarantee there will be surprises along the way." So that's pretty vague, other than to tell us that DC is doing another round of continuity house cleaning. But Didio, however you say it, said everything counts, which seems like it's going to cause, I don't know, more confusion rather than less. And of course, Didio was fired not long after this article was done, so is what he said even still valid? I don't know. But like I say, I do like the characters that are involved, and I do like bringing back Dominus because he's an underused villain. So, taking it on its own, I like the setup, like the characters, but after the characters are gathered, the plot really seems to get bogged down. And, you could almost probably about the... Now, this is a pretty lengthy comic. It's 80 pages, but I think almost the last fourth of this comic, just not a whole lot really happens in terms of plot. It's just the characters fighting and the story not really going anywhere. The artwork is all over the place, which isn't surprising since there's like 14 artists on this book. I get the impression that no one really did their best work on this issue. So this one's a mixed bag, but I am curious to see where this goes, how it plays out in regards to continuity and what consequences it will have. So I'm going to give this one a nominal thumbs up and recommend it, hoping that the rest of the story will be worthwhile. So check it out. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and please hit the like button before you go. Also, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.